class, and today in this video we are going to talk about the write-up of Bal Sitaram Mardhekar, commonly called as B.S. Mardhekar, and his very famous critical essay titled as Poetry and Aesthetic Theory. I'm Dr. L.V. Padmarani Rao, Professor and Head, PG Department of English and Research Center, Yashwant Mahavidyalaya Nanded, welcoming all to this deliberation. The B.S. Mardhekar, who is commonly called as Bal Sitaram Mardhekar, was born on December 1st, 1909, in Faizapur, in the Khandesh region of Maharashtra, India. He was BA in English Language and Literature from the University of Mumbai and was a wonderful critic, poet, dramatist, novelist, and a short story writer whose contribution to the Marathi poetry is wonderful. He has introduced modernism in Marathi literature, for which he has received Sahitya Academy Award. This wonderful poet, cum critic, has passed away on 20th March 1956 at the age of 46 in Delhi. Mardhekar was an exceptional Marathi writer whose innovations in the Marathi literature scene engraved his name as a prolific writer in literature forever. He founded a new style of poetry in Marathi, which radicalized the very sensibilities of the Marathi poetry. Apart from poetry, Mardhekar also penned an opera-type short plays and novels, which introduced the stream of consciousness in Marathi linguistic space. A thinker in literary aesthetics, B.S. Mardhekar introduced an avant-garde style poetry which sent waves of wonderment and interest in the Marathi literary world. If you look at the early life of Bal Sitaram Mardhekar, born on December 1st, 1909 in Faizapur in Khandesh region of Maharashtra, his father was a primary school teacher but later retired as a deputy officer. His family came from a religious background and the worshipping of Purushottam Ram was a family tradition. Mardhekar's father, Sitaram Pant, was very interested in the philosophy part and literature of ancient India. Mardhekar owes his primary education to his father's friend, Sri Fadke. In high school, Mardhekar grew up as an introvert and a bookworm. One would rarely see him out playing in the fields. He got his BA degree from the Bombay University in 1928. After failing to complete his MA education because of some practical difficulties, B.S. Mardhekar went to England for an ICS qualification. However, yet again, this dream of his too shattered. After 4 years, he returned to his home country without a degree. The 4 years in Europe gave Mardhekar first-hand experiences of war, technology, culture, and the arts as well as aesthetics. And although Mardhekar wanted to be a professor, his lack of educational qualifications hindered at this occupational prospect. Eventually, he got employed at All India Radio, where he worked till his death. Mardhekar initiated a number of new programs in All India Radio, which highlighted his own personal interests and likes. For instance, reading of poetry by the poets themselves, broadcasting of short plays, and reading of famous novels by the novelists are some of the new initiatives. Mardhekar's intellect and a penchant for the creative imagination made him embrace it through writing and theorizing literary criticism as well as literary aesthetics. He began his literary work with his anthology Shishiragram, published in 1939. Shishiragam becomes a very famous work of B.S. Mardhekar. Other of his major poetic works have been Kahi Kavita, published in 1947, and Ankhi Kahi Kavita, published in 1951. His poems had an echo of both the influences of the West and the native voice. Moreover, he also experimented with the stream of consciousness in his poems. This is the Order is a very famous poem of B.S. Mardhekar, which completely shows his modernism as well as postmodern approach to the writing of poetry. This is the order of a dark world, a wick of soot in the heart of darkness. A black plane zooms into darkness through black hair. There are no signals, not red nor green. One cannot get lost in the invisible. Wherever I go, I am my own partner. My eyes have turned into such walls. Apart from poetry, Mardhekar also penned a play titled Natashreshta in 1944 and the novels Ratricha Divas 1942 and Tambadi Mati 1943 and Pani in 1948 are quite famous. In 1956, Mardhekar was awarded the Sahitya Academy Award for his work Saundarya Ani Sahitya, a study of aesthetics. The same year, he breathed his last breath. The poet died at a very early age of 47 in New Delhi. He was educated in Pune and London and worked at All India Radio until his death. His earlier collection of poems, Shishiragam, was product of a Ravikiran Mandal poetry, which is sentimental as well as lyrical. But his later avant-garde poetry brought about a storm in the Marathi literary world. His poem with the title Pipal Mele Olia Undir. Pipat Mele Olia Undir, Mice Died in the Wet Barrel, appeared in Abhiruchi magazine in 1946, which became very famous. Similarly, to what Baudelaire did in French poetry, Mardhekar brought about a decadent urban ethos into Marathi poetry. Marathi Bhakti poetry and the poetry of T.S. Eliot and W.H. Auden had an influence on him. In 1948, he was charged and tried for obscenity for some of his poems in Kahi Kavita. He was declared innocent of these charges in 1952, though. Mardikar was also an influential critic and an experimental novelist. He attempted to bring in the stream of consciousness technique in Marathi novels and his write up. He received in 1956 Sahitya Academy Award for his work Saundarya Ani Sahitya, a study of aesthetics. When we look into his poetry collection, Shishiragam is the first that he published in 1939, Kahi Kavita in 1947, Ankhi Kahi Kavita in 1951, Kititari Divsat and Ala Ashad Shravan are the famous collection of poetry of Mardhekar. He is equally well done in his novel writing, Ratrita Jivas, that he published in 1942, Tambadi Mati 1943, Pani in 1948, and Mardhekarancha Kadamriya in 1962. A collection of all his novels are quite famous. He was equally good in writing plays, Karna in 1944, Natashreshta in 1944, Sangam in 1945, and Aukshan 1946, along with Badkanche Gupit in 1947, establish him as a wonderful playwright in Marathi literature. Mardekar has been a short story writer as well. Natashreshta Appa Sahib Rele, that he published in 1944, has a collection of short stories. Mardekar also is a translator. Dilip Chitre, an anthology of Marathi poetry that he published in 1945 to 1965, and Vilas Sarang, Poems of Mardhekar for Private Circulation, are wonderful translation of his write-ups. In criticism as well, Mardhekar is in the forefront. Arts and Man, that he published in 1937, Wangmayin Mahatmata, 1941, two lectures on an aesthetic of literature in 1944, Saundharya Ani Sahitya in 1955 establish him as a wonderful critic from India. Traditional poetry with conventional notions of beauty, later he was introduced to modernist avant-garde idiom to modern poetry. He was much influenced by the horrors of the World War II and was also influenced by the mechanization and urbanization after the World War II in the world. The horrors of partition in India and the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi have influenced him a lot. His novels have the stream of consciousness narrative strategies. His dramas have operas being introduced as a new form, and hence Mardhekar is all the while modernism as well as modernist type of writer. Thank you very much for being a part of this video. Hope you have understood the theory of Bal Sitaram Mardhekar's poetry and aesthetic theory. Hope you have enjoyed it. See you in the next class. Bye for now. Namaskaram.